This is the Cryptid Creatures Podcast. I am Brian, and with me, as always, is my co-host Todd, and we are live.
What's happening, everyone? We're live, our first live show here. We have our three guests with us today. We have Todd Neese, who is an Army veteran, Bigfoot researcher, and public speaker. Todd, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thanks for coming back on our show. You're a past guest. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We also have a couple guys by the name of Wayne and George. These guys are Bigfoot enthusiasts, and they also starred in the Sasquatch Hulu documentary. Wayne and George, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, how you doing? We're relaxing in the desert for the winter. We're down near the Zuby sightings of the 70s. We're about an hour away.
Okay.
Enjoying ourselves, looking around, checking out the area.
Okay.
All right.
We also have Zach Starek. Zach is a Bigfoot investigator and the team lead of Southern Illinois Monster Hunters and a past guest. Zach, what's happening, man?
Very, very cold, my friends. Very cold. It is currently 26 degrees, and it is looking like a winter wonderland in Southern Illinois.
Wow. Yeah,
We're
same
feeling
up
your
here.
pain up here, yeah.
So I'm jealous of y'all.
Don't be jealous of us.
Don't be jealous of us.
Maybe Wayne and George for sure.
It'll be 82
Well,
here
Todd
tomorrow.
too. Todd, how's stuff going?
We sent that your way. You're welcome.
Todd, how are things going in the Pacific Northwest these days? What have you been up to?
Oh man, just trying to get out in the field as much as possible, and doing some experimentation on some theories I have, and just doing podcasts and getting ready to do some upcoming conferences.
Yeah, I wondered where you might be speaking next.
Well, I was scheduled for Nebraska, but that got canceled. But I've got Ohio in May. Of course, Beachfoot, my own gathering in early June, or excuse me, later June. Before that, I'll be in Virginia, speaking over there with the OTPIC. I think is the way it goes. But yeah, we're lined up for Texas in 2023 as well as Alabama. So we'll be doing doing a little bit of traveling.
Right. Roughly how many podcasts do you think you've been on, Todd?
Well, in just the past 12 months, I think just a shade over 40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Making your rounds.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm working on a couple of documentaries. One should be coming out here, hopefully in late April. Just doing some final editing on that, and it's called a Flash of Beauty: Bigfoot Revealed, 2-part series. Been hit up by a pretty big network. I'm also working with Doug Hadjasek on Sasquatch Legend Meets Science 2. Follow up to his first big hit. So, yeah, busy.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming back on, man, and hanging out with us.
You bet.
Wayne and George, you guys are in the desert, you say. Were you doing any excursions while you're there? You looking for what did you call it earlier?
Well, the Zuby sightings or encounters of the 70s is about an hour from here. But we're not down here for that. We're just down here relaxing for the winter. No, we've been sticking mainly to Eastern Washington. We made some really good friends out in Medellin Falls after the festival last year, and we've gone out. Oh God, 4 times?
Yeah, 5 times.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
One of the local ladies had an encounter right in her front yard. We went out and stayed with her for about a week and wound up with some spiritual entities situation, which really messed with our equipment. And went bushwhacking with some border patrol out in the middle of nowhere, and we did some drone footage up and around Sullivan Lake, looking for the supposed caves of encounters and sightings that are up in there. That wound up being extremely interesting. But unfortunately wound up being more of a myth buster than reality and facts.
Yeah.
So it put a lot of people's minds to rest on some of the situations up there. But yeah, we've been keeping pretty busy. I've been staying off the podcast now for what, 6 or 8 months because we're just doing everything else.
And this
I
whole
hear you.
COVID thing.
Yeah, and the COVID and everything else. But
Right.
as far as where we're going, I mean, we're going to be speakers this year in Medellin Falls because of what we've been doing out there and all the things that we've run across
In Oregon.
And then we're going to go down to the big one in Oregon that they finally rebooted for this year. And I think Kelso also in July.
What's the one in Oregon called?
Oh my Lord.
Todd, do you know what it is?
Yeah, Todd, say
Well,
it again.
There's a couple.
He's in Oregon.
Todd will get it.
I know there's one in Troutdale. Let's see, it's called Bigfoot Days or something like that, but I could be wrong.
It's only a 1 day thing this year, and it's all going to be outside because of COVID.
When did you say it was again, Wayne?
September?
July.
July?
July 30th.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I might try to make it out to that if I'm out there for work by chance, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Do you guys know Lori Trudeau, by the way, Wayne and George? She says hi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we get our Sasquatch toys.
Okay. Yeah. She
Yeah.
says hello. Hi, Lori. Thanks
Lori.
for the message.
Hey, Laura.
Zach, what's going on with you,
Sorry.
man? What's new with the Southern Illinois Bigfoot hunters? You guys been getting into anything down there? Or
Well,
seeing anything?
right now it's just getting all of us together to actually go and get together because we all work so much and everything. Some of us work for anhydrous companies. I'm working in a warehouse now, driving a forklift. Some of us are mail carriers, some of us are doctors, and some of us are EMTs. So we go, and it's just trying to get back out there. But we got a couple irons in the fire right now. We had a report handed to us here about an hour north of here of a woman that lives out there on this little piece of ground out by Belle Rive, Illinois, just outside of Mount Vernon. And she said that there has been a family of Bigfoots that she has seen over the last 21 years, and they are white, black, and tan color. And she's been feeding us information as it comes to us. And then here a couple weeks ago, she came home from work, and she went and she found a calf's head in her yard, and like completely just like ripped off the body. And she said, my dogs are trained not to go outside of my yard, and not only that, because they've got those invisible fence collars on, so they don't go outside that perimeter of that yard. And there was a calf's head in there, and in the yard, and one of the dogs was chewing on it. And so I had her bag it up and put it in her freezer so that way we could come up there and take a look at it. And because all of us, aside from our regular 9-to-5 jobs, we're all cattle farmers. So we've been in the cattle business for a long time, and we examined the head, and there was no clean cut. And there was a little piece of vertebrae sticking out from the back of the head at the base of the skull with a piece of the spinal cord still on it. So this calf's head was ripped off of the body. There was no sign of incision or any kind of hacking motion. It was just all like one swift stroke. And then that's one of our cases. And then the other one, which is one that was fairly new to me, that one of my new team members brought up to me, Gail LaFoon. And it's the Perry County Goat Man, which is a county just north of here, outside of Franklin County. And this thing is, as the legend and the folklore goes, this thing is supposed to have been, the traditional human goat hybrid, where the farmer had a baby with a female goat, which I don't believe. I think it's misidentification, but my team member, Gail LaFoon, actually had an encounter with this thing along with his grandfather back in the 1920s. And this thing has been reported by locals to have been responsible for a 3-person massacre at a graveyard. And according to the reports, it was his grandfather that was the one survivor out of the 4 people that was there when this thing attacked. And so we're going and we're looking into those 2 cases. We're returning to Franklin County outside of Thompsonville to reinvestigate a case of a property owner that we investigated this past May, where I actually believe I was actually struck with infrasound. And so we're going back there. And then in April, we're actually, you guys are getting the exclusive on this. We were contacted by the same company that actually did the Creature from Big Muddy documentary that me and my cousin Ben were a part of. And they're actually going to come down in April for a whole weekend, and they're going to film us do one of our little investigations.
Cool.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. And then we got, I got 2 or 3, I got 2 speaking dates this year. One's for my other passion, which is the outdoors. I'm doing a camping and basic survival seminar for a reading program for the local grade school. And then in July, we're going to be doing a sort of a Squatch Fest at the Pittsburgh City Hall. And we're going to be giving a lecture along with the Little Egypt Ghost Society. And do a showing of Creature from Big Muddy with some of the stars that were actually a part of it. So I'm staying pretty busy. A lot of good things has happened, but I'll save that for later on.
Right on. We can get into that.
Hey, I have a question for Zach.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Zach, how common are white Sasquatches in your area?
Say that again, my friend.
How common are white Sasquatches in your area?
Oh God. This would be the second one that I've actually heard about, because the first one I heard about was the Big Muddy Monster, which was a white Bigfoot that been plaguing the area for the last 150 years, but it gained mainstream media attention in 1972 in the New York Times. And that's in the small town of Murfreesboro, Illinois. About a couple, I want to say about 40 miles away from where Belle Rive is.
Okay. Because, I mean, I hear about white Sasquatches mostly in Pennsylvania and Ohio, but I have never heard of them in Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Big Muddy Monster was supposed to be, the report was by this couple that was down at the boat launch in Riverside Park on the Big Muddy River. The Big Muddy River is a river that feeds off of Wren Lake, and then it runs through a handful of counties, and then it joins up with the Mississippi. And it was reported to be kind of a black skin color with white mud matted hair, and about 7 to 8 feet tall and approximately 400 pounds. And the first couple, whenever it first got media attention, was this couple that was out, and they were at the Lover's Lane, and they were having an affair on their spouses, and they were 2 very well respected members of the Murfreesboro community. One was a lawyer, and the other was another lawyer in town, and they worked at the same firm. And this thing came up. They're in their car, and the smell hits them, and they hear a scream erupt up out of the woods down by the river, and they kick their headlights on, and this thing is walking towards their car. And they took off, and they ran straight to the police station with it. You know, something harrowing had to happen for 2 well-respected members of the community who's having an affair on their spouses with each other to go to the cops with it.
So they went to the cops and told them.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And they were, wow.
There's actually, you go to the Murfreesboro, you go to the Jackson County Courthouse, there's actually an open file on the Big Muddy Monster that the police let people read, the general public read.
Zach, what time of year was this that they had the sighting?
It was early summer, and it lasted for about anywhere from a week to a month. I get the timeline mixed up in my head, but this thing was sighted for a while, and then it disappeared, and then it returned approximately 10 years later and attacked and was seen in a junkyard, and it actually tried to attack the security guard and the owner of the junkyard, and they sought shelter inside of the building. And this thing was coming up and just banging on the side of that building, and it was hitting that building so hard, and it was leaving dents inside of the sheet metal on the side of the building. And they said it was the size of a basketball this thing's hands were making.
Wow. Damn.
Man.
So I mean, this thing is very territorial.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wayne and George, what were you guys running into on your excursions you were talking about earlier? You had mentioned something about some paranormal stuff or something you guys did?
Yeah, the Kalispell Indians have an old story about what the East Coast knows as pukwudgies, which are small spiritual creatures that are, I don't want to say targeted, but oriented around a certain, either a piece of property or where they died or something along those lines. But the property that we were at appears that they have some type of guardian entity, and we showed up because we were invited to come out and investigate and stay the week. Mm-hmm. And when we showed up, the owner of the property had already left for the evening, but she left a note and left the doors open and everything. So just come on in, set up, your room is here, blah blah blah. So we were doing that, and as we were coming and going from the vehicle, he started noticing movement. And this was, you get the scrub growth, 2-3 feet tall, and he noticed a shadow. So I stopped.
But a solid
shadow. And he's pointing. So I stopped to look, and the undergrowth, this one tree literally was laying flat and just went boing and just started doing this. And there's no wind, no movement, no turkeys, no creatures at all. And so he gets his camera out and he starts zooming in, and he goes to take a photo, and it's all fuzzed out. I mean, the trees turned white and everything got all fuzzy and out of focus. What was it, like 5 or 10 feet either side? He couldn't get anything. And I said, quick, turn around and look 180 degrees the other way and try it. And it worked perfectly. So then he comes back around. It wouldn't work at all. It was like, 2-3 hours?
Yeah. We walked the entire perimeter. We went deep into, she's got huge acreage. And we walked deep inside the area where I saw these creatures. And then we got to a path, and we walked deeper into the path. And then there was this wood line. And there was this, I don't know, maybe 6 foot, 7 foot tall creature thing that I said to Wayne.
I couldn't see that when he did.
I said to Wayne, okay, we got a jet. We got to go. This was like the most evil looking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I've never seen him as freaked out as he was that night.
And I grabbed his, I grabbed his arm and I said, we got to go. We got to get there. The sun was going down and we were like unfamiliar territory. And I said, we got to go. We just got to get the hell out of here.
So then the owner, a couple hours later, she comes back from her dancing class that she was at, and I proceeded to tell her what was going on and showing her the stuff on the camera and this, that, and the other. And she just got this shiver down her back, and I was like, what's the problem? And she's like, well, that's where we had the her girlfriend had taken photos of orbs. It was the exact area of her property. We had no idea. And evidently, I don't know if it's her mother or her spirit of her mother, or if it's some of the spirits that the Kalispell tribes are talking about, or what it was. Mm-hmm. But it was, it gave me the creeps. I'll tell you that. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. Neither did he, until you actually encounter it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the wildest thing, especially the thing with the camera.
I've had similar situations with electronic equipment going haywire, and I can't for the life of me figure out why, but I can tell you on 2 occasions. One was when we were conducting Operation Sea Monkey up in British Columbia. We had taken a Zodiac from our our 50-foot trawler that we were using to this remote island. And we get off, as soon as we get off the boat and drag it up on the sand, we heard this tremendous thump it sounded like a 300-pound boulder hitting the ground. And we got it on tape, because you can see everybody's expression change. But we just went forward and went in to set up some game cameras, and then I've got a set of 4 seismic ground sensors that will detect vibration and send a silent signal out to the boat. And we had a videographer with us, and she was filming, and just for whatever reason, she got the heebie-jeebies and said, "We got to get out of here." And said, "Give me a chance to set up my ground sensor." So she films me putting this spike in the ground and turning on the transmitter. And then we set up 2 cameras along a game trail, and one of them failed to work. And then Tom Seawood, who was with us, he had a radio. It was a VHF radio. It can reach out, 5-10 miles. And we're standing on the shore looking at this trawler, our base for that week, and he's trying to raise the captain to let him know we're heading back to the boat, and no connection at all.
I don't know.
And we're like 200 yards from the
Battery's
from
full
the
charge.
Yeah. So what's interesting is once we came back and retrieved the cameras, no, actually it was before that, because we were checking out the footage that was shot while we were on the island. We put it in my computer, and we're all watching it, and right about halfway through, the audio just goes to a tone, a high-pitched tone. And it's while I'm putting in the transmitter, I thought, well, maybe there's some radio interference or something, because it does transmit. Maybe. Well, as we rewound and looked back at the tape, I hadn't even turned it on yet when that tone started, but we lost all audio from that point on. So I don't know how that happens, but I've had other similar situations, fully charged equipment, and the one time I had everything from a radio to my night vision, thermal vision, my digital recorder, all went out.
Wow.
In an investigation.
I want to get back to you guys on this and ask you guys all about something, but that tree that you guys, Wayne and George, you're talking about that tree that flipped up on its own, like it was being held down by something. How big around was that tree?
Oh, no, that was just, like I said, a scrub brush. I mean, nothing more than a branch.
Oh, okay.
It was like a sapling. But like I said, there was just absolutely no wind whatsoever. Nothing was moving. And to see one thing just go boink, and you just see it, and then it just came to a rest. And like I said, we scanned the area, and there was no turkeys, no deer, no nothing. No squirrels. And it was inches from where he was seeing the shadows. So it just added to the mystery and the creep factor, I'll tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
George, can you describe that creature that you were talking about that you saw? Did you see any details of this thing, or was it just an outline?
All I remember was its mouth and its teeth. It had like a row of teeth that was just almost like every single tooth was like a fang, and it was not outside the tree line, but just behind the tree line enough that you can make out details, and you can see its face, and it wasn't human, and it wasn't ape-like. It was just, I hate to use the word demonic or out of this world, but it was not right. It was just like, holy crap.
Wow.
I got to get out of here. Let's go.
I recall it had these probing movements, where like it would rush up through the underbrush, side to side, and pull back. And then, like I said, when the owner showed up, it just disappeared.
Wow.
It was just extremely. I mean, it just. And we went back there with the owner, as a matter of fact, and I set my camera on record instead of taking
Twice.
photos. And just like Todd mentioned, when the first video was great, nothing happened. But the second video, halfway through the recording, which was an hour-long video walking around the entire property, halfway through the video, the audio just cut off completely.
Oh,
The video part was there, but the audio was completely missing.
Wow.
And it was like, what the hell's going on?
And I recall there are certain areas of the tree line that almost are hollowed out, like it's a camp area or something. Like there's a trail that goes in, and then there's a circular area, no more than like 5 or 6 feet in diameter. But
and that tunnel, remember that?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
big,
about.
huge tunnel
That's what I was
thing.
talking about.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, when I talked to the Kalispell tribe about it privately, it fit right in with everything he was saying. But of course, they wouldn't go on record with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys were talking about lights earlier. I'd like to get into that for a minute and get your guys' opinion. People talk about seeing bright lights or orbs or maybe like lightsaber-like lights during, before, after Bigfoot encounters. Todd, what's your thought on these lights? Do you think they're associated? What is your opinion on these things? People are definitely seeing something. Can these things transform into a light form and just roam around that way? I mean, what's going on in your opinion?
Well, as you know, I'm not really big into the paranormal side of things per se. I think there's some scientific questions that certainly need to be answered. People are seeing stuff. It's not just coming from one person, but numerous people I know. I don't doubt they saw what they saw. But when it comes to lights, I can tell you one such paranormal, or at least I had categorized as paranormal, and that is the eye shine effect.
mm-hmm.
I did not believe that was possible, but after I was invited to investigate on the Omaha Indian Reservation in eastern Nebraska, I got corrected, I guess, if you will, because 5 nights in a row we had encounters that included this eye shine. Not any orbs per se, but these were, a set of 2 eyes checking us out. Sometimes 2, even 3 at a time. And that's a mystery that I'm working on solving right now.
Gotcha.
But I can tell you, I can't unsee what I saw, and this eye shine was also accompanied by vocalizations of all different types. But it was quite an experience. Quite an experience.
Yeah.
Good.
Zach, what's your thoughts on the lights and the orbs?
I mean, I've got my own theories on that and everything. I guess all of us here could agree on that would qualify in with the woo, wouldn't you all say?
Yeah.
Todd, No Myth, you guys would agree on that probably, wouldn't you? That it would fall in with the woo.
Yeah.
The supernatural kind of side
Yes.
of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I believe, here's my theory and everything, because of what I've encountered in my lifetime. I believe that it's could be something else other than a Bigfoot and going and disguising itself, because and here's my thing, and hear me out. Bigfoot is a cultural icon. He's on lunchboxes, monster trucks, beef jerky commercials, and movies, cartoons. Everybody who's got a TV has kind of a mental image of what a Bigfoot might look like.
Mm-hmm.
So what if it could be something else, whether it's in the extraterrestrial realm or the paranormal realm, that's using the guise of a Bigfoot to hide its true form, because say, for example, an alien, he would go and not want to stick out like a sore thumb, but it would be more sensory receptible for a person to see a Bigfoot versus seeing an alien that's 8 foot tall, green and scaly, with a horn growing out the side of his head and 6 arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
gotcha. Guys,
I do believe, from folklore and everything, with the Native American folklore and local folklore, that we are dealing with something, because like I tell everybody whenever I speak to anybody about these kind of subject matters, with every legend and piece of folklore, that all started from something. But you got to weed through all the embellishment to actually get down to the truth of it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yep.
I do. You making that statement, you talk about folklore. It's like, where did that all come from? We did an episode not too long ago with a dogman encounter where, we talked about how could these things be? Where would they come from? But people have been talking about them for years, back in the day. Werewolves, did someone just pull that out of his mind and create that creature in his mind? I think there's more to it than that. I think it's people were seeing some stuff back then, and that's kind of the folklore that took on, because we haven't really have that
Right.
proven fact of these things,
And I agree on that as well and everything, because, here I'll throw a grouping of years out, back in 1800s, little Johnny McGraw over there couldn't call his buddy on Facebook or on the telephone over in the next county and say, why don't we go out there and make this up? I've got this big idea, because back then they were not educated like we were. Some of them were higher caliber on intelligence than most people were, but they weren't as educated, but they would have had to ride on horseback to tell what they saw and everything. They couldn't just be like texting on Facebook and say, I've come up with this, you're going to run with it, kind of deal. They were seeing something. They weren't making this kind of stuff up.
Right. I agree. Yep. So all three of you guys have seen either a Bigfoot or some kind of cryptid creature. I know, Wayne, you've seen a dog man at a young age. We could talk about so many things today, but something that's been on my mind is the different types of the Bigfoot creatures. They say there's 4 different types. And maybe that explains why people kind of describe them a little bit differently. I hear some people say they have a gorilla face. Some people say they have a human face. What's your guys' thoughts on that? Wayne and George, why don't you let us know what your thoughts are on that topic?
Mine tend to go, have been along the lines of same as Todd's, more human, apish, Neanderthal looking, especially in the face. That's
Right.
Mine
Todd?
was definitely more human than ape, and I was easily 50 feet away, and it just walked straight past me. I mean, it's I'm 62, and it happened when I was 13, and it made such an impression on me that I can still recall it vividly in my mind. I mean, it's still it's alive in my mind today as it was when it actually happened, and it was more man than it was gorilla.
Sometimes I wonder if these things aren't just what cavemen used to be, or still are, and just kind of stayed in their wilderness in their caves. Todd, what's your thoughts on the different types?
Well, I don't have an issue with that. I believe that I've come to the kind of full circle where I was kind of in the Gigantopithecus category to explain them, but I agree. I think what we're dealing with is a very robust hominid. Humans are primates. Scientifically, we're cataloged right there as primates. And look at all the different variations in the 5 of us here, or 6 of us rather. I mean, go to any shopping mall and just people watching, and they come in all different shapes, sizes, different facial expressions, and so it doesn't. I don't think these things are all going to look alike. You're going to have old ones, young ones, and they'll change.
Right.
Just like we do. So um, I don't think we're dealing with necessarily different subspecies, just um, different personalities, different characters. So
Gotcha.
that's my
Zach,
opinion.
Zach, you got to see a Bigfoot close up, fairly close up. What did you see? Was it human face, gorilla face? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've seen all three. You know, the human face, the primate looking, and then the gugwe looking with the baboon face. And I honestly, I believe whenever it comes to those, I was on a podcast here about a week ago on a wrestling podcast talking about this, and I believe that one and the same. I believe that it's just like with us humans. There's um, white man, black man, Hispanic, Asian, Thai, Native American, German, Russian. We're all of the same, cut from the same cloth and everything. It's just different ethnic groups. I believe that what we're dealing with is they're all one and the same. It's just they all look different, like contrasting with all those ethnic groups that I just rattled off. Um, I believe that they all are from the same, what's the word, Todd? Is it genome? Is that the correct word?
Well, species, and it could be subspecies. I mean, if
Species,
we are
that's it.
talking something that have some sort of human hybrid in them, I don't know. But I do think they are in the hominid, not the humanoid, but the hominid line, which is, again, similar to that of Cro-Magnon, the Denisovans, Neanderthal. I just think what we're dealing with is this ancient tribe, if you will, of, of hominids that have somehow been able to survive in extreme conditions.
Do you guys think that? Do you guys think that Bigfoot could be the missing link? Do you guys think that we could possibly come from that creature? Wayne and George, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't want to get into the big debate, but
You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
no,
Do you
I'll,
think?
I'll answer. I'll answer.
Do you think
they
they're the
come.
missing link? Let's start
No,
with that. Okay.
no.
No.
I think they're half human.
Okay. Gotcha.
I just think it was it's. I think they never progressed past their evolution, and somehow they are smart enough where they can stay hidden and survive, but they just have not evolved to the point where we evolved because we were lucky enough to be civilized and live in the structure that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But they're smart enough that they can live out in the wild and survive with what they're used to.
Right.
I think that evolution has a lot to do with your environment. And I think that these things drew a line at some point and said, we're not going to go beyond what we know. We're not going to become more like a society. We are fine doing what we're doing, or maybe they're just not capable of it. I don't know. But, I do think humans developed from something more primitive than what we are to what we are now, as far as being able to come out, not live in the woods, but live out in the open, build buildings and have societies and stuff like that. These things just don't have that knack, and they've always survived like they are in the woods. And like you said, very well.
Well,
But you don't think
I don't
you
mean
don't
to
think
interrupt you.
Go ahead, Zach.
they have a family unit, but you don't think that they have a societal unit as well?
Well, when I say that, I mean a lot of them together doing a lot of things at the same time. I believe that there's family units of 5 or 10 maybe out there, but I don't know that they would get much bigger than that. But I could be wrong. I mean, nobody knows.
Yeah, I know.
There could be a whole 20 of them living together for all I know.
Maybe one of these days we will know.
Yeah, it's like Wes
Keep
from
doing what we're
Sasquatch
doing.
Chronicle says. I don't have one in my basement that I can study.
Right.
Right.
And
Unfortunately.
in my garage. Zach, what were you
Yeah,
going to say?
yeah.
Well, it's kind of a theory and it's kind of out there, but hear me out and everything. And I, for months and months and months, I muddled this thing over in my head. A couple of years ago, I put this out there, that, if you look back through history of Bigfoot reports and even Native American folklore and legend, a lot of the Native American tribes, they actually said they actually lived in harmony with these things.
Yes.
And so, what it's to say that, because you said that they drew a line and you're like, we're going to pull back a little bit. What if to say that these things up until whenever the white man came over from Europe, they came over and they brought silks, treasures, and disease and plague, smallpox, measles, bubonic plague, stuff like that. And, I believe, like with Bigfoot not having any kind of natural immunity to these things here in the Americas, like the Native American tribes did, they suffered.
Whoops.
Oh, we lost
Oh,
him.
we lost Zach.
We lost him. Well, he'll be back.
Well, if I
Yeah.
could just
We'll be back.
pick up where he left off, it's survival of the fittest. These things are out there. And as far as groups are concerned, or clans, if you will, I would suggest we look at the model that's going on right now with the Olympic project, and the fact that they have found nesting sites that number, gosh, I know the first one they found included about 8 nests, and these nests are made up of huckleberry branches entirely, and they're woven together. And I think at last count they're at about 18 now. They found another site, but that kind of tells me that they do have some sort of social connection. Albeit I don't know how long or how many, but
Sorry, I dropped out. My signal dropped.
No worries, man. Todd just took
good.
up. Todd's taking off up where you left off. Go ahead, Todd. Sorry.
yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, when you go back and you look at Native American references to that, and they're kind of hard to find, but Ray Crow, the late Ray Crow, loaned me a book, and it was about Indian legends in the Northwest here, Pacific Northwest. It wasn't about Bigfoot. It was just a book, a hardbound book that talked about the coyote and the raven and the turtle and their interaction with other animals. But it was interesting that when they referred to this species, if you will, they would call them the old ones or the first ones. And that tells me a lot. They did not equate them with your average animal. They actually described them as a tribe, just a very, very old tribe that was here before they ever got here. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where the Indians and whatnot back in the day fought with these things, or kept them at bay, or kept them in the woods, or they stayed in the woods for that reason. I think if Bigfoot were the only creature roaming around beside, humans weren't here, they'd probably be a lot more of them, and they'd probably be more out in the open, I'm guessing.
If I can add to
back
what
then,
Todd was just saying, in my talkings with some of the tribes in around the Anacortes area, Skagit County, I was dealing with the Swinomish, and that whole area, way back in time, the tribes in British Columbia would come south and raid the southern tribes for kids and women and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, during that time, women would be raped or whatever, and the ones that did not get taken or killed, the tribe was telling me that they would basically carry the birth or the child to term. And then when the child was born, the elders would give or sacrifice that infant to the elders or the old ones. And it was up to the old ones to determine this human being that was created in violence, what was its destiny? Was it going to be a violent creature, or was it a neutral that people could learn from? And the ones that were this neutral or good were basically raised as liaisons between the old ones, Sasquatch, and us, or in this case, the Swinomish tribe. And years down the road, some of these orphans would come back because they had been raised and lived with the old ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've heard so many stories about
Yeah, that's
Bigfoot
interesting.
taking people, kids, women, what have you. What do you guys think about their demeanor? Do you think these things are obviously they're part animal, I'm guessing. Do you think they have compassion? Do you think they are more kind? Do you think they're just, whatever's there, they're going to take and eat? I mean, do you think they look at us differently?
I'd suggest that they, again, like I said before, that these are individuals with their own individual personalities, and I think they're as different as you and I and anyone else. But even in our own society, we've got people that, for whatever reason, are taking a life of crime. They're violent. They don't care about anything but themselves. And I don't think, as a rule, that they are inclined to kidnap people and rape them. But I will say, probably one of the most recent stories came out of the Colville Indian Reservation back in the early 1900s, where a woman was kidnapped from a fishing camp, and they watched her being carried away and were too frightened to go after her. But once their fishing season was over, they decided to go look for her. And she was smart enough to tear pieces off of her dress. And you can look this up on the
I know this one, yeah.
web, but they followed this trail of cloth that she had left, and it led them to this meadow where she was down on her knees digging up tubers or roots that they eat. And nearby, their Sasquatch apparently was sleeping. And when they saw her, they motioned her over, and she crawled away and got on their horse and took off. And once they got to safety, she told them that she had been raped, I guess, if you will, and that turned out that she was pregnant, and she had the kid, and his name was Patrick, and he lived on the Colville Reservation. He was described as, he wasn't really tall, but he was extremely husky and more hairy than most people. But he was very intelligent as well. And the story of Patrick was that he went on to start a ranch, and he ran that ranch for quite some time. And he's now he lived up to his early 30s before he died, supposedly of natural causes. And he's buried on that reservation. So, but that was not that long ago.
I'd like to check that out.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Me
I'm gonna
too.
look that one up.
See pictures
Check
of
out.
that guy.
Oh, I haven't heard that story. That's a wonderful story, Todd. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah, just look up Colville plus Bigfoot. I'm sure you can find it from Google.
No, I've
You
read
said-
it before.
You said Colville Bigfoot. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Zach, you and I were talking a little bit earlier before we came on here. What's your thoughts about, we were talking about the Nephilim. What's your thoughts on the Nephilim and all that stuff?
Well,
do you think that's
you know,
what Bigfoot is?
I honestly, I don't know. I do know this though. from my experiences that I have actually had up close, personal, physical encounters with these things. I'm not talking about like they picked me up and took me off, like how Todd said with the lady, but I do believe that these things are flesh and blood because I have heard them, I've seen them, I've smelt them, and I've actually felt them on 3 occasions. And no, 2 occasions. My mistake. And these things are as real as you and me. And I believe, what are they? I have no clue. There's so many possibilities of origin. Some I've heard people say they're Nephilim, which is the sons of God, the fallen angels, and the daughters of man. Some people have actually said, I've got it here in my notes where it says that they're descendants of Cain, because let me find it here. If I could find where I had it marked.
Mhm.
You're good, man.
Here we are. It says here I brought my Bible to the show. I've started doing this a little
All
bit.
right.
Genesis 4, chapter 4, verses 11 through 15. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. He's talking about when Cain killed Abel.
Mhm.
When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you shall be on the earth, meaning he'll be an outcast. And Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Verse 14 says, surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth. And it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me. Verse 15 says, and the Lord said to him, therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. Whenever I read that and it says the Lord set a mark on Cain, I believe that he transformed him to look apart from what we look like. Because as it said in Genesis, God made us in his image. And I don't know if any of y'all are religious or not, but this is my personal belief. And he set him apart from what we look like. He marked him. Was to say that God didn't change him to what we see today as a Bigfoot.
You're right. You're right. Nobody knows, and that's very possible.
Some people say that Bigfoot is an undiscovered great ape. We've just recently discovered bonobos within the last 20 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some people say it's a relic humanoid. I believe that could be a possibility because in Heidelberg, Germany, they found a mandible of a relic hominid they dubbed Homo heidelbergensis. And they did DNA tests on it, and they found that it was a ancestor of what Homo sapien and Homo neanderthalensis is. So what's to say that Bigfoot couldn't be the missing link and be a third branch off of Homo heidelbergensis?
Sure.
And then with the alien theory that I discussed earlier with you, about it could be something that's disguising itself to what we could think could be possibly visually and sensory acceptable to be a Bigfoot, what it should look like to hide its true form. So there's many possibilities.
Right.
When people suggest to me that Bigfoot may be of extraterrestrial origin, and with all due respect, my feeling on this, my reply to them is, buddy, there is nothing on this planet more terrestrial than the species of Bigfoot. They have been here through ice ages. They are survivors, and uh, I just think they are as terrestrial as you get, and so I don't have an issue with them having been a part of this planet for quite some time, long before us.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
But I
think they've been
will
here. Go ahead, Zach.
Go ahead.
No,
Well,
you're
I
good.
will throw this out there. I've been at this now since I had my first encounter whenever I was 9. And I have been researching whatever I could find, watching whatever I could find, reading whatever I could find. And I made up this character profile that it's took me 17 years to go and draw this up. And this is all educated guesses. I'm not claiming this is fact, but this is educated guesses of what these creatures' character profile is from reports and that I've read, encounters that I've had. That they are a primitive creature, highly intelligent. They're masters of their domain. This one here is something that I believe this comes from a and you, Brian and Todd, heard me talk about Scar when you guys had me last on. I believe that they are polygamous because whenever I saw Scar, this Bigfoot that I saw that had a scar on its cheek, I believe that they are polygamous and that they do have a harem of females, a group of females that the alpha male breeds with. Other reports and encounters that I've had, I render that these things are very highly territorial and that they will either attack you or run you off if you're too close to something that they're very protective over, whether it be a nest or it could be their young. I believe that they have a spoken language and a possible sign language. And whenever I say possible sign language, I'm referencing Coco the gorilla. She spoke basic sign language. And then with Ron Moorhead with the Sierra Sounds, I forget who the cryptolinguist was that reviewed the Sierra Sounds. I saw his name today, and I'm having a brain.
Scott Nelson.
Yes, and they found that with those audio recordings that Ron has, is that they have a spoken language. I have actually heard samurai chatter in the past. Possibly they can make tools or weapons referencing chimps because there's been documentation of chimpanzees making makeshift spears to hunt and fight with each other with. And I believe that they are intelligent enough to make clothing out of animal hide and make even footwear. And whenever I say footwear, I'm referencing the Lovelock Giants, the sandal they found in the Lovelock caves.
In Nevada.
They put it on a
Nevada,
Bigfoot cast, and it was a perfect fit.
Yep.
What's to say they are not, with it being like with you, me, Brian, and Todd, it's cold here where we're all at.
Right.
There's snow and ice on the ground. Who's going, even one animal, if they have the means to, are going to want to walk around barefoot on ice?
Right.
Right.
And also there's been reports of Bigfoot. I actually read a report on the Ohio Grassman that it was actually wearing a deer hide that it had strewn over its shoulders in sort of like a little tunic. So what's to say that they can't take a deer hide and take ivy vines and weave it together to make some kind of coat or cloak?
Right. You talked about the gorilla. What was the gorilla's name? Coco, the signing gorilla. I heard a story about her. You want to talk about intelligence here with these species? Apparently, she was capable of escaping from her cage a few times. So they're starting to watch her a little closer. She could go out into a different area, but she couldn't totally get away. But I guess they were catching her get out of her cage one time, and as she was outside of the area, and they kind of approached her, they asked her, "What are you doing, Coco?" And she signed, "I'm just having a smoke," because she would watch the workers go outside and have a smoke break. So she was trying to just get out of it and say, "Oh, I was just having a smoke. I'm not going anywhere." So that being said, if a gorilla has that intelligence to communicate like that and can understand what you're asking or signing it, I believe these things are even more intelligent than that. So, I mean, yeah.
Well,
they
when
can
we
make
talk
shoes.
about intelligence, I think it's important to understand the differences of intelligence, because when we talk about IQ, the measure of our intelligence quotient, that whole test that you take to determine your IQ is based on the understanding of very technical issues, mechanics, science, and whatnot. I think their intelligence, if we wrote the test to fit them. Their intelligence from a very primitive um, background, they would be, let's put it this way, they would have more intelligence, street smarts, if you will,
Right.
wood smarts.
I like that.
They
Wood smarts.
they would have very high IQ as long as we wrote the test that fit their lifestyle.
Right.
I think they're a lot smarter than us out in the woods, and
Mm-hmm.
they certainly own the night. But yeah, I think they're very intelligent in their own particular way.
You know, and Todd,
Wow.
you hit the nail right on the head and everything, because I see whenever I say they're a master of their domain, I mean that, because here's the thing. And Todd, you've been in the Middle East. You're a war vet.
Mhm.
It's totally different over there compared to over here. And even
Oh,
just
yeah.
like for you two gentlemen with No Myth, Brian and Todd, we're masters of our domain in civilization. But we go out there in the woods, we're out of our element unless we've actually spent, at least like a friend of mine, he was homeless and he lived in the woods for 4 years in the Shawnee National Forest. So, he learned a little bit of it, but these things are out there their entire life. They
Mm-hmm.
know how to remain stealthy, remain out of sight, but you go and put us out there, we're kicking over rocks, we're rustling leaves, we're breaking sticks, we're getting all worked up from a gnat buzzing around our ear. They've learned how to adapt and to master their domain.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
What do
just
you guys?
like I use this example all the time with the Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese army during the Vietnam War. They were using guerrilla warfare tactics. I go and I use that as comparison to a Bigfoot in the woods, because they're using their environment to their advantage.
What do you guys think about the cloaking and all that stuff with these things? Do you think that's real? Wayne and George, what's your thoughts on that?
Really? You're gonna go there?
Well, you haven't been speaking, so I thought I'd come to you
Yeah,
guys. Come back around to you
we want to
guys.
pull you back in.
As I said in the documentary, don't go there.
Yeah.
That's right. I
Yeah, I remember
apologize.
that.
I don't believe
I
it.
remember that.
I know that.
I don't believe in that at all.
Todd, what's
No,
your thoughts on
I
that?
don't either.
Well, I have a theory I'm working on. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look
Okay.
good.
I'm just pulling up
Yep.
the page here. I have been experimenting with how do we explain what all these people say when there's a lot of, let's say, every story has its basis, at least partially, in truth. And I've heard this stealth cloaking argument for a long time. So what I'm trying to do is come up with a scientific reason to explain why people are seeing what they're seeing. And one of the things I've done is look for examples in nature where something similar has happened, and it's also based on the fact that I've looked at microscopic pictures of some reported hair samples, and I was surprised to see that some of the hairs in these samples were translucent. And so,
Right.
if I were to ask you what color a polar bear is, I think pretty much everybody would say white, but they're not. Their fur is not technically white; it's translucent. They have an outer layer of guard hairs that are translucent. And we know about this. That the polar bear absorbs the light and even thermal energy through these translucent hair shafts. Now imagine. So they're picking up the colors that surround them, and it's an excellent form of camouflage. So what I'm doing, I have got 1,000 feet of fiber optics, and I want to experiment with, say, a good sized swatch of bear hide, photograph it in different settings under different lighting conditions, and then come back and start infusing these pieces of fiber optics to see if, like a polar bear, that those outer clear hares will not pick up the ambient light and the surrounding color, which would give it the ultimate camouflage. So that's something I've been working on to help explain why people go, oh, well, they weren't there, and then they're there, and then they're gone.
Right.
I just think that they may have the ultimate camouflage, that as long as they're not moving and they're experts at not moving, they're going to be very, very, very difficult to pick up.
So you're going to take
Yeah.
a patch of bear skin and you're going to apply those fiber optics like hair. Is that what you're going to do and make it kind
Exactly.
of and then see,
Yeah.
oh,
So
man.
when we look at the polar bear, this will be surprise you. Says when you see a bear, a polar bear that looks white, it says what your eyes are actually interpreting is the scattering of all wavelengths of visible light, rather than the color produced by the pigments. In fact, they even bring up the term, or they bring up the idea of fiber optics. It says the polar bear's optical technology is a fiber optical one.
Oh, wow.
Would not work with which, however, would not work with individual hairs. The hairs of the transparent pelt have to engage collectively in scattering process to produce its extraordinary properties. And so we do have an example of a mammal that has the ability to be hard to find. In fact, they even go so far as to say that their hide traps heat so well. It says they're very, very difficult to even pick up on a FLIR or an infrared camera because of the way these hairs pull in the heat and transmit it to the base layer of fur. So anyway, I'll keep you posted as that goes along, but I think it's a good possibility.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see that. Yeah, because we've discussed that before about the hairs being the translucent, so they can
Brian,
blend in with their surroundings more.
Well, Brian, you made a comment too that they could be reflective. That's why people maybe see what they call it, the predator kind of look, where the trees are still there and shaking and moving, that kind of thing. But yeah,
Right.
Todd, you get that going, man. That sounds exciting. I'd love to hear what you're coming up with.
Yeah, you can keep us posted on that one.
They would be
Yeah.
absorbing and reflecting the trees and whatever around them.
Right. Yep.
You know, think about it like this. Here's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, we don't know what these things are. They could have some properties to them that allows them to do things like that. Think about like if we were to go over to, let's say we go to the Amazon and we come across this this native culture down there that's never seen humans before, right? Or maybe only a few. And you have, let's say you have a gun and they watch you shoot an animal and they've never noticed that, you know, to them, that's magical. You just point your hand at something and boom, it's down. You know, they have to like track shoot. Yeah. That's crazy and insane and out of this world to them.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe something is natural to a Bigfoot creature that can do that with its fur, if it's that way, is normal to them, but magical to us, for one, because we don't really know these things are.
Right.
And two, their capabilities is going to be beyond what we even can imagine, but it's nothing to them, you know, just like shooting a gun is nothing to us, but to animals and other people who don't know anything about it or lost tribes, so to speak, would be amazed and shocked, like, oh my gosh, you know.
Yeah, that's just that brings to mind the picture in mind of Ash from Evil Dead. This is my boomstick.
Right.
That's what I said. Boomstick. Yeah.
See, and to me, this all ties into what we were just discussing a minute ago about the IQ tests. You know, what we're intelligent about, they won't be. Which
Exactly.
And what popped in my
And vice
mind when you
versa.
guys mentioned it was the scene from Planet of the Apes, when Charlton Heston is in front of Dr. Zaius in the panel, and the panel of orangutans are asking the human being, you know, about the third protocol of blah, blah, blah. And because it's a total different society, he has no idea. So therefore, they think he's an idiot, when in fact, he's an astronaut, you know.
Right.
You know, it's two totally different environments. So the IQ test in one is not going to relate to the IQ test in the other.
I hear you. Well, something that I've been thinking about too is population. What's your guys' thoughts on that? How many of these things do you think there are? Do you think that they'll produce enough someday and they'll populate enough someday where there's just no doubt about them being real and the government has to say, yeah, okay, they're there. We can't do anything about it. Population, what's your guys' thoughts? Zach, go ahead.
That kind of ties into before I got cut off earlier with my connection earlier. Back whenever I was talking about how I believe that they did live in kind of a harmony or symbiotic relationship with humans, the Native Americans. And then the white man came over and brought the measles and smallpox with them, and they didn't have any kind of natural immunity. I do believe that Bigfoot was in great numbers back in those days until they started getting affected by all these plagues and these diseases, and it killed off a majority of their population, and they saw their population dying. So they kind of went to a self-quarantine and stayed in the woods.
Gotcha. Wayne, George, what's your thoughts on the population thing? Is there a lot of them? They're not that many. Do you think?
Based on my readings and well, Tom Cantrell, Tribes of British Columbia, Tom Seawood, all those people. Mm-hmm. I recall hearing and reading in Bob and Kathy Strain in California. Washington would be around 200 to 300 family groupings, which could be anywhere between 5 and 12. And then you just extrapolate across the country based on forest coverings, percentages, all kinds of logarithms.
So you think like a few thousand per state, depending on the
well, if you figure 200 family groupings with a minimum of 5 per family groupings, there's 1,000 right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I've read a couple of years back that there's probably at least 5,000 to 8,000 Sasquatches within the contiguous United States.
Okay.
I have no idea how many up in Canada, though.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. I read that several years ago, so I really have no idea.
And that's just reading off of other people. That's not our.
And how they come to that number.
I guess
who takes a census in Sasquatch?
Right. We don't have a Bigfoot census yet.
Yeah.
Todd, what's your thoughts on that?
If I might, I used to work with Dr. Henner Fehrenbach, a primatologist who lived up here in Oregon, actually worked at the Oregon Regional Primate Center. And he based his population numbers on what the daily caloric intake one of these things would be. Again, he's extrapolating from mountain gorillas, and they're based on their size, weight, and how much we know they eat daily. And also based upon the habitat and what sort of food sources are available. And he came up with a number of about 2,000. And frankly, and he's mainly focused on the Pacific Northwest. So we're talking essentially the Coast Range, which starts Cape Mendocino, California, and goes up into the Olympic National Park. Mm-hmm. And the Cascades, which starts at Mount Lassen in California and goes right on through up into Canada. 2,000 of anything is not very healthy for any species, especially, depending on how they're dispersed. But that's why our American Primate Conservancy was founded, to basically collect data in order to get them protected. And we're at the point now where we've got to prove these creatures exist, the species is viable. But until we have those numbers, we don't know. And I would say anywhere between 2,000 and 5,000 could easily stay hidden in just those two mountain ranges alone. But that's until we have those numbers, because I hear a lot of people when I bring up the protection part of it. A lot of people, they're like, "Oh, they're fine. They don't need protection. They're doing just fine." Based on what? And without scientific data, and if you can't tell me how many exist today, and then how many existed 1,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, we don't know which direction the species is going. But I think it's best to err on the side of caution, because there are few and far between, and we're encroaching more and more into their territory, their habitat. So again, I think until we have that census that you talk about, we get a rough idea of what we're dealing with. The last of a species doesn't have the definition of extinction. There's, yeah, the last of a species does, but there's such a thing as technical extinction, and it's based on once you get down to maybe a couple hundred of any animal, whether it's a bird or a frog or whatever, you run the risk of inbreeding, and they say that if you get down to like 200 of anything, they're for all intents and purposes, that species is doomed to extinction. And I just really don't want to see that happen. Right now,
I
it's
don't think
open
any of us do.
season without any laws on the books. It's open season.
Right. You're right.
Well, the thing that kind of I think about too is we all kind of feel, or some of us feel, that these things have been around for a long time. That being said, you would think there'd be a lot of them. I kind of tend to lean toward a couple 100,000 or more. Honestly, I mean, those woods out there are scarce and big, and if these things have been around for that long, I tend to think there's a lot more of them, and they don't have any natural predators except for humans, right? And I think the only people that are probably going out there, and Todd, maybe you can attest to this, maybe not, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think the only thing that's going out there and really taking care of these things at any time is the government. If they've got some kind of lead on some trouble Bigfoots or whatnot. I've heard some stories about, helicopters swooping in to take care of some of these issue Bigfoots that are harassing people. But Zach, what's
you was talking about the government and everything. One of my team members, Gail LaFoon, actually works down on the river for an anhydrous company, and he said that he works right along the Mississippi River, and not far from where the big muddy monster phenomenon took place. But he said he was down there working there about 3 years ago. And the military fly over here all the time because of Scott Air Force Base, upstate Illinois. And then you got one over in Indiana, in southern Indiana. I forget which one it is. But they fly over here all the time. And he said that there was two Apache helicopters, and they came in with one of those dual rotor ones, the big cargo choppers. And they came in right above up on the bluff along the riverbank, and they just opened up with their guns on that side of that hillside. And then here came that dual rotor chopper and landed on the levee, and a bunch of men took off into the trees. And about 10, 20 minutes later, out they came dragging a tarp that was about 12 foot long, and they were carrying something inside of that tarp, and they loaded it up on that cargo chopper and took off with it.
That wasn't a bear.
We have the occasional bear in southern Illinois, but not so much that they'd call the military in to take care of it.
Right. Todd, before I forget, thanks for your service again in the Army. What's your thoughts on all that, sir, as far as the government and Bigfoot?
So I really have trouble with this whole government conspiracy aspect of it when it comes to this species. I mean, let's be real. We're talking about a population that numbers a few thousand to whatever. It's an inevitability that these things will be found and to the extent that one is captured or that one is found that has died of natural causes. It's inevitable. I think you'd agree. Now, that being said, the government cannot stop you. They cannot. They're not going to go out there and hide the existence of these. Because, I mean, any more than they did when they discovered the mountain gorillas in Africa, or the lowland gorillas. Yeah, I think we made it just fine going through that whole crisis. um, Unless there's a government agent behind every rock and every tree out in the woods, there's no way the government can control what any individual, anybody here on this panel does or finds or collects and takes to the press or takes it to a laboratory. They can't be everywhere at once. So when you couple that, it's inevitable that they're going to be officially found and recognized, and there's nothing the government can do to stop that. Um, it just doesn't. It does that dog don't hunt for me.
Okay. So it's not that they're keeping it a secret. They're just not really coming out and saying they know. Is that what you're saying?
You know, we kind of saw that with the UFO thing and how they only recently released some additional information that we didn't know. Whether they're sitting on some information, I don't know. But as far as being able to prevent the existence of these creatures done by any particular random individual, in fact, we know that'll probably be somebody not even interested in Bigfoot that's going to make that discovery. They're just going to stumble upon it. Are you in that scenario? You're going to look over your shoulder and think the government's going to pop out behind a tree and say, "I'm taking that." It just doesn't. It doesn't work. It'll be an amazing discovery to know that we have something similar to other great apes, and I think it'll be a fantastic discovery. But to say that the government's hiding it, that they had them and they're not telling us, just there's no reason for that. It just really isn't. I mean, I've heard every excuse. You know, one could walk in off the street and turn itself in. What are you going to do? You know?
Right.
So
right.
That's just my take on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, there can't be someone sitting around a corner just waiting. I do think that sometimes when people have found one or encountered one, or hey, there's one dead here, whatever, if it ever happened, or shot one, I think if they called the local authorities, which they have done, I think then maybe someone else makes a phone call. I don't know, but it's just crazy to me that
Right.
you know, we can't come out and just say, hey, these things are real. People need to believe this.
We're working on it.
Yeah. I think there's more and more sightings that are happening too nowadays. So
There, Todd probably knows about this. I'm sure he knows about this. There are a lot of sightings at Joint Base Lewis McChord, just outside of Tacoma, Washington, and a lot of soldiers have come out and have spoken about it.
Him?
Yeah. And it is amazing that the government will not officially comment about it, but I mean, Lewis McChord is a humongous base. And there are people who do like nighttime tactical maneuvers, some soldiers, and they actually see these creatures walking around or watching them while they're out doing the maneuvers.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, weren't yours on JBLM?
Say that again.
Or it wasn't yours on JBLM?
No, I've
Or was yours overseas?
No.
I forget. I'm sorry, I forgot.
When you say yours, you're talking about my sighting?
Your sighting when you guys were in the caravan.
Oh, yeah. So no, I've spent some time at Joint Base Lewis McChord when I got back from Iraq. But my sighting was actually happened in the Oregon Coast Range,
Okay.
where I and 3 other soldiers witnessed 3 of these creatures watching our convoy. So probably about 10 miles east of the coastline itself, about 10 miles inland in very dense forest.
Did you say that was
Cool.
near Seaside before, if I remember right, Todd?
Yes.
Okay.
For some reason, I remembered it being on JBLM, but my mistake. I apologize.
Well, there have been a number of there. You're right. There have been a number of sightings on
Yeah.
JBLM, and it's a huge space.
Yeah.
It goes right up to the base of Mount Rainier. So, but yeah, I heard a number of stories come out of there, and I don't think anybody's been hauled and told keep your mouth shut because
Well,
the stories are coming out one way or the other.
Oh yeah.
Right.
well, I think it tends to be along the lines of the UFO situation. There's no pressure. There's no hey, shut your mouth until somebody actually comes out and says something, or they come out with a photo. Then all of a sudden they disappear, or they get pressured, or whatever. Or you're a liar, you're a nut, and they wind up in the loony bins or whatever. And then all of a sudden, 75, 80 years later, like the UFOs, oh, now all of a sudden the Navy's coming out with video. Here you go. We may end up with the same situation.
Right.
Probably.
George, any more thoughts from you, sir, about all this stuff? Anything on your mind?
The only thing I can say is that, once you see one, there's no doubt in your mind. And no matter how many times you talk to people about it, you can't persuade them that it's real. As maybe 1 out of every 10 will believe you. The others will think that you're a nut.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to tell people that they're real and that they exist and that you have seen one. As a matter of fact, this gentleman that we befriended right here at the resort, he's from BC, and he's an outdoorsman, and he has spent a majority of his life outdoors hunting. And we got on the topic of Bigfoot, and he says he has never ever seen one ever in his life. He's seen all sorts of animals and creatures, but he has never seen a Bigfoot.
Nothing even unexplainable.
Yeah, and I'm going like, how is that possible? You live in the middle of nowhere in BC,
North of Idaho, just across the border.
Yeah, and he goes, I've never seen it. I don't think they exist. I don't think they're real. And at the same time, we're there at the pool, and we both go, we both seen them. So, and it's like, very smart man, extremely articulate, educated, and all of a sudden I'm going like, don't even try.
Right.
Yeah, don't even try.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and me and Todd have talked about this before, that there's the majority of the population just don't want to know. They don't want to know that there's something else out there that's sharing our earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just
I've had people say, why are people even talking about this still?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they just want to stay in their lane and go about their daily lives and not even think about that stuff.
It's like the monster.
I think that's kind of sad.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Todd.
I think that's kind of sad because this whole experience for me, although it was unplanned, has really opened me up and to realize that we have not found everything by any means that exists on this planet.
Oh no.
It's like, when did science stop being the act of discovery? And a lot of scientists today don't want to step outside that box. Their reputations are too important for them. But that's fine with me, because right now it allows people like us to be able to go out and do our due diligence and try to bring proof through the use of different equipment, drones, game cameras, seismic ground sensors, FLIR, night vision. So yeah, it's really kind of cool what it's done for me, and
Mm-hmm.
it just made me a lot more aware of my surroundings. And once you've seen them, I'm sure the gentleman here would agree. You go into the forest with a whole different mindset than somebody who wants them to exist or wishes they exist. When you know they do, you open your eyes, you open your ears, and you look for things that you never would have looked for had you not had that experience.
Your head's on a swivel.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
We got Tina on. She's saying, so true. Most people have to see one in order to believe it. So, yeah, I guess that's right. I think you have three kinds of people. You have non-believers, like, they don't believe. You have believers like me and Brian who haven't seen one, but we truly believe in them.
Right.
And you have knowers like you guys, because you know there exist because you have
Because
seen
you've
it.
seen them. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Jesse T says, could it be a supernatural aspect attached to Bigfoot? Could have people not want to know. Paranormal activity effect. Don't show the monster as it interacts with the environment. Yeah, it's possible. Mark Kirk says, is it intimidating seeing one?
Very much so.
Oh yes.
Oh, hell
Todd.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just the hearing
Seeing them or hearing them, I had an experience back in 1998 when I set up an expedition in that same area where I had my sighting. We were actually on the south side of Saddle Mountain, and I was fortunate enough to have Ron Moorhead and Peter Byrne along on my team.
Oh.
And Ron had flown his private plane into Seaside, and we were hoping to use it for aerial reconnaissance, but the weather was terrible, and so he was kind of grounded. And once the weather broke, I think it was on day 6. Ron said, "Hey, I hate to do this, but I want to take advantage of this break in the weather." So Peter takes Ron to the airport, leaving me up there by myself. And just to cut to the chase, I had taken refuge up in the old growth when a hailstorm came by, and I had to answer the call of nature while I was there. And anyway, I got roared at, and I mean, I'm the only person up there, and the effect, I guess, to me was amazing, because I always thought the term frozen with fear was not true, but a euphemism, but it is true. I could not move for two minutes. A level of fear I never want to ever experience again. I was praying, it was like whatever made that sound is extremely loud, and it was only maybe 78, 80 feet away, but it was hiding behind this hedge. But I never felt so helpless in my, well, better word, hopeless. I had no hope. It was everything at that point was in this creature's hand, and I was prepared to die. And the only,
Wow.
and I mean, I've been shot at with mortars and missiles and rockets and bullets. Got jumped out of perfectly good working airplanes. I've had a lot of situations that really bring up the pucker factor, but I'm telling you, nothing. I felt, like I said, hopeless. It's like being pushed out of an airplane at 20,000 feet without a parachute. You've got about 2 minutes or so to, well, let's just say you know how that movie ends, and there's nothing you can do. That level of fear, they are very intimidating when they want to be.
I can't imagine being in front of one, just thinking you're going to die. It'd be like trapped in a area with a grizzly bear. Your thoughts are, I'm dead, but this thing doesn't kill you. It just literally scares you to death. Frozen with fear seems to be a true statement, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Kirk also asks, would you not want to see one again? Any of you?
Mm.
Or do you want to see one again?
I do.
Oh,
and I
that's
don't.
my whole thing.
Here's the thing. That's not for you to decide. You won't find them. They'll find
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you stumble across them and they don't want you there, they'll let you know. But if they don't, they think they can get away without you knowing about it, they'll do that, and you'll never know they were there.
Right.
Yeah.
Zach, do you want to see another one?
I saw one back on December 27th. I wasn't even looking for one. I was out filming for my outdoor show, and he showed up.
I would wonder what you were doing.
I was asleep in the tent about 1 a.m. and I rolled over to readjust myself, and I was asleep up underneath a sleeping bag I opened up because I couldn't fit in it because us thick boys don't zip up too good. And I'm laying there on my cot like, and I had a 20 gauge shotgun with a deer slug in it right next to my cot, and I had about this much of my face uncovered by the sleeping bag, and I'm just looking straight up at him. And it was a full moon that night. He just looking right down into my tent, and I'm just sitting there, and I watched him for about 2 minutes, and I didn't even bother moving, but I had my hand across my chest. That way, if I had to roll to get that gun, I was going to bring it up and put one in him if I had to. And right as I was watching him, my phone lit up for a notification, and that spooked him.
Wow. Wayne and George, would you want to see another one again? I think you guys do because you're out looking for him, right?
He does. We go for investigations. People that have had sightings and they want to check out the area. Or like I had one lady in Washington. There was a forest worker sent me photos, and she wanted to know if they were really prints or not. So we went up there and checked them out.
Yeah, 2 days later.
Yeah, 2 days later. But I don't actively look for them because I know, like I said earlier, they're only gonna you're only gonna see them if they want you to see them, or if you wind up being in the wrong place at the right time. So if it happens, it happens. I mean, I don't actively go, hey, let's go and camp out and we're gonna see one this weekend. No.
Right.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens.
Todd?
Wayne goes back to Seattle on Wednesday, and I'm going to take a little day trip by myself sometime after he goes, because I have some time by myself because I'm here till May, and I'm going to take off and go to Alpine, California, which is where the Zoobies were spotted back in the 70s, and just do a little couple of hikes around the area and see what the area is like. If is it like really desert, or is it very treed, or
He's got a death wish.
Yeah. Well, be careful when you're out there by yourself.
yeah,
Well,
because I mean, I've always read about that story, and it's like this whole family of Sasquatches were on this man's property. He was a psychiatrist, and he would tell his family and not to go outside once it got dark, because he would see these three creatures, a mom, a dad, and a child, Sasquatch, on his property. And I'm going like, I've always wanted to investigate it. I'm so close, so I might as well go down there. It's just about an hour and 20 minutes away. So, I mean, it's like, I do want to see one again, but I don't, because I know how terrifying it is when they're, I mean, it's just, like I said, I saw one when I was 13, and it still feels like it's just happened yesterday. And
the terror of it.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. There's
I mean,
definitely some effect when
Yeah.
people see these things.
And
Todd? Oh,
like,
sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, like what Todd said, you're frozen in fear. I couldn't move when that thing was about 50 feet away and it was walking past me, and there I'm standing, and I peed myself. I mean, I was just,
Yeah. Imagine.
And on that note,
Yeah. Well, no, I hear about that too.
Yeah.
Todd, I think you'd probably want to see one again, I'm guessing, but probably not so close
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Is that it?
Well, funny you should say that. You know, my purpose in taking up this study is twofold. One, like I mentioned before, it's based on science and trying to learn more about them, and ultimately get them protected. But on a different level, on a personal level, hell yeah, I want to see them again. It's I have to find a purpose in why that happened to me, and that's why I do what I do. Um, I could have been looking the other direction. We could have come down a couple minutes later or earlier. Uh, it just so happens that I was blessed with that sighting, and I'm trying to get closer to. I don't, when I was out at the Omaha reservation and we were seeing this eye shine, and I'd seen it now for 4 nights in a row. I turned to my native friend and I said, "Have you ever just tried to walk up to these, glowing eyes?" And he looked at me like I was crazy. He goes, "No, no, no." And I'm like, "Hold my beer." And I walked directly toward this set of eyes. In night, pitch black, can't see the hand in front of your face, but you can see those eyes. And I said, "Just stay here. I'm gonna head for this thing." And I got about 40, 50 feet away before it finally moved off. But he still talks about that crazy white boy. But I have to tell you, it was nerve wracking. But my whole thought process is these things are engaging us. They have built this reputation, especially with my friend over the course of years. They're curious about us. Let's test them. Let's see. You know, they they're they're very curious about us and our ways and the things that we can do that they can't. That's why I think they're seen most of the time. They're kind of doing a recon on humans, trying to figure out a little bit more about us.
Right.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, I
trying to
think
figure
so
what's
too.
that little pink thing.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we probably look like aliens to them.
Well,
Mark also asks us, what's the best place in Pennsylvania to see one? What do you think? Anybody have any ideas on that? I would say anywhere near the
You know,
Appalachian Mountain area for sure.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere along the trail.
Yeah, middle southern state. I've heard of them being around Pittsburgh. I've heard of them being around Erie, Pennsylvania. I've heard of them being, of course, northern Pennsylvania. I don't think there's too many running around Philadelphia area, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Anywhere in Pennsylvania is probably good. Check the BFRO online for the Pennsylvania sightings, and you might get a better idea
Right.
of,
That'll probably give you a better idea of
yeah,
where to go. And
Anywhere close to the Appalachian Trail and the cave systems. Yeah.
definitely. And be safe for sure, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us. Do you guys have anything else before we sign off and let you guys get out of here? Anything to add?
Well, I did look up the Oregon situation. It's the Oregon Bigfoot and Beyond. It's at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds in Canby, and it's July 30th.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
That would be cool to make it out there. Maybe, Brian, you and I can get out there for that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I do know there's another one in Troutdale, usually in the summer. But if I get that information, I'll pass it on.
Okay,
But
cool.
Talk.
Zach, what else with you, man? Anything?
A couple things going on and everything. In July, I think it's the 15th or the 16th. It's on a Saturday, I know. In Pittsburgh, Illinois, at the Pittsburgh City Hall, me and my team will be doing a big Squatch Fest Bigfoot lecture and a showing of the documentary that we were in, called Creatures from Big Muddy, an Illinois Bigfoot legend, and it's free to the public. April 1st through the 3rd of this year. I've got my camp out coming up. Everybody's invited to attend that and everything. Red Room Creative Media will be there documenting it as well. And I wanted to go and leave y'all with this. And this ties in because, I've been at this now for a long time and everything. And I've dealt with skeptics and researchers alike and everything that like to go and say, well, I'm right, you're wrong, I can do no wrong kind of stuff. And then whenever you go and you defend yourself and they don't get anywhere, they decided to get on a personal level and insult. It's like it says here, and I live by this, Romans chapter 12, verse 14. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. And then in verse 17 of Romans chapter 12, it says, repay no one evil for evil, have regard for good things and in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed them. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For in so doing, you will heap coals of fire on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Basically, what I'm saying is love each other, even if they do persecute you.
Right. Amen to that. I like it. Bigfoot Church. Let's do it.
Well, I'm back doing ministry now and everything.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually going to be preaching here in a couple Sundays too at my church. So.
Good for you. Awesome, man.
Right on, man.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you coming on and doing this first live show with us. We'll have to do this again. It was good times, man.
Absolutely.
And Sonia just texted me, Medellin Falls 2, June 25th and 26th. Ron Moorhead, David Pilates, Amy Bew, us, and a whole bunch of other ones.
Okay.
Good.
I don't know if I can make it to that one, but man, that'd be awesome.
Right,
guys will have to film some stuff.
You guys to come to our camp out in April. We're going to be in Jackson Falls State Park in the Shawnee National Forest.
You know what? That's a possibility. That's a possibility. I'd like
Daniel
to get down
Benoit,
that way.
the ECBRO will be there. We got people from Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, Missouri, and Kentucky and Tennessee going to be coming out to that. And hopefully we have you two from Indiana to wrap it all together. I'll be cooking.
When is that again, Zach?
April 1st through the 3rd. It's a Friday through a Sunday.
I'm going to be in Florida for spring break, unfortunately.
You still do spring break? I didn't know you were still in school.
I don't want.
You still got a cool.
I gotta go.
I'm not going down that road.
I gotta go party on the beach. What you talking about? Anyway, guys.
It's going to be a Bigfoot camp out. Not only that, it's going to be sort of a church retreat too, as well. I'll be giving a message on that Sunday, and hopefully if some people get saved, I'll be baptizing them down there in the falls.
Awesome. Cool, man. Cool.
And Wayne and George, are you guys going to get that podcast going again, the No Myth show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got all the stuff that we've been doing last fall and all through the winter.
Okay.
And I got to get pieced together and into podcasts, and I don't want to go into all the BS we've been having trouble with, but whatever.
So people can look for that in near
future. We got a lot to do.
I bet you Todd will come on and talk to you guys.
Todd and I appeared in Nampa, Idaho last summer, and
nice.
we talked about that, doing just that.
Loved
his presentation is amazing. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, he does.
If I can, I put in a plug for my website.
Yeah, go ahead. I was getting to you next. So.
Basically, it's AmericanPrimate.org. Constantly, constructing it. But also, we have a Facebook page, American Primate Conservancy, as well as my personal page. Just my name, Todd Neese. Lastly, related to Beachfoot, this will be our 15th year we've put together this conference, and it's a private affair, not open to the public or the media or vendors or anything. It's really just a retreat for serious researchers, and we've had them come over the years. Pretty much everybody who's anybody in Bigfooting has been there one time or another. But we've had them come from Australia, England, Russia, New Zealand, and all across the U.S. and Canada to spend 4 days and 3 nights together, just researchers, sharing and networking. And that'll be in, I want to say June 26th through the 29th. But looking forward to that. But there is a page, if you want to go there, there is a Facebook page called Beachfoot. I highly recommend, if you want to see what it's like, kind of go there and look at it. We are open for new participants. It's not like a clique, We do have repeat people. Peter Byrne and Ron Moorhead have been to every one of them.
That's awesome.
That's a bucket list item for me, is to be invited to Beachfoot. That's a bucket list item for me.
Well, shoot me an email, Zach. We'll talk.
I'll get a hold of
you. What I can do. Okay.
There you go. There you go.
That'd be great.
And just real quick, if you go to YouTube, you can look it up. It's Rick Riolo put together this documentary. It's about 40 minutes long. It's called the 10th Beachfoot 10th anniversary documentary, and I'll tell you what, it's really well put together and really captures what it's like to be there, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So anyway,
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm done.
Cool.
Done
Check
plugging.
that out.
Yeah.
All right,
Our fans will definitely
thanks.
check that out. Tied you out? Okay, buddy. Take care. Zach, Zach,
Thanks.
you got
Wayne and
the
George, thank you.
Yep. Just real quick, Zach has his Southern Illinois Monster Hunters, so be sure to check that out. And
Yeah.
Wayne and George have No Myth with Wayne and George. And when you guys start that podcast up, I want to be a guest. We want to be a guest on your show.
Heck yeah.
Totally.
We want you to
totally.
interview us.
That'd be great.
We can
Like I
talk
said, with
about
all the videos that we've got, and actually working on a book and all kinds of stuff. So
right on.
we've been busy behind the scenes.
I hear you. And then I just want to say to our watchers, Mark, who's messaged, Mark, Jesse, Lori, and Tina, thanks for hanging out. And all you other guys
Mike.
listening and checking out. Mike, you too. So we appreciate this, guys, and we'll let you get out of here and get back to your lives. So you guys take care.
Yeah. Thank you all
Thanks,
for taking
guys.
the
Sounds
time
good,
to
everybody.
God
join
bless.
us on this first
Right.
live, and
Have a great weekend,
hopefully
guys.
we can do it again. You too.
All right. We'll see you guys.
See ya.
Take
Bye.
care. Cool. All right. That was good, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
now I
again.
got to go home to the wife.
All right, man. Yeah, I got to go
All right,
downstairs.
Zach.
Get my wife's
Take it
doing.
easy, man.
You
All right,
guys
thanks,
hang
bud.
loose, and you guys want any more information? You guys still got my phone number, right?
We're going to get
Yeah.
back in touch with you and talk again. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
Oh, yeah,
Just
for
give me a
sure.
holler.
All right, bud. See you, buddy.
See you guys.
See ya. All
Okay,
right,
bye.
man. That was good. We are still going. So
Yeah.
thank you all for who got on and watched us today. So let us know what you think. If you want to see some more of this, we'll keep doing them. So
Definitely.
just let us know.
Yeah. We can get more. We're going to get more guests on here, different guests that we've talked to in the past, and do this again. It's a lot of fun. Talk about
Heck
different
yeah.
things and get their perspective. So
Yep.
if any of you guys out there listening want to come on and do it, let us know. Get us.
Yeah,
get a
for
hold of
sure.
us.
I mean, hit us on the email at info@cryptocreatures.co.
We're on Facebook. We have a group. And what else, Brian? Now we have a phone number we can call, right?
We do. You can always call us and leave us a message at 877-5-DOGMAN.
Nice. I like that.
And,
Yeah. If you guys want to leave if you don't want to come on and talk about your encounter, but you want to leave it on a message, go ahead and tell us. Tell us about your stories, and we can talk
so let us know.
to them about it on our podcast, or we can put your recording on if you want to do it that way. So if
Yep.
you can't find the time. So,
Yep. Right on.
all right. We appreciate it again, everyone. Thanks for listening. Brian, thanks for hanging
Man.
out with me as
Oh, yeah.
always, man. I love
Always
this
fun.
stuff.
Yep. Me too.
All right. Until next time, brother.
All right. See ya.